Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Gensler, thank you for coming to be with us today. I want to continue to follow up on Chair McHenry's questioning. I'll attempt to be more successful. In November 2021, the President's Working Group on Financial Markets released its report on stable coins, which recommended that Congress enact legislation to establish a federal prudential framework for stable coins. You remember that report?
I do, sir.
Is the SEC a member of the President's Working Group?
We are, sir.
And do you believe that, did you support that recommendation of the President's Working Group?
I did.
And do you think that Congress has been inactive on this topic?
As best I know, Congress is engaged with the administration throughout the 2 years. So
you would call that active? Yeah. We're looking for that framework, and you support us drafting a regulatory framework for payment stablecoins.
If I could say, when stable coins, I think that it's important to ensure that there's safety and soundness there, and that if this committee and Congress were to address this through legislation to ensure that we don't undermine our $100 trillion capital markets, that we don't inadvertently somehow undermine what money market funds operate in this country, or how other parts of the financial markets. Lastly, that we don't undermine both the CFTC's and SEC's authorities to go after fraud and manipulation, because right now these stable coins are being used in the crypto ecosystem, and I think you really do want that cop in the beat, the SEC on the beat in the crypto ecosystem.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that you support a regulatory framework, and I think those issues you raise have to be taken into account by the President's Working Group, and I think they have. I mean, I think those are addressed in their reports, and I think that's certainly the focus of hearings, and so I'm glad to hear, and I don't think I'm putting words in your mouth, that you do support Congress attempting to create a regulatory framework for payment stablecoins. Is that fair?
I think with the guardrails of not undermining the $100 trillion capital markets, and remembering
I got your checklist. We've got that.
I was just going to, also in the recent events in the markets, one of those stable coins actually had over $3 billion at Silicon Valley Bank.
Understand. So terrible decision by them. Terrible decision by Silicon Valley Bank. We've already had a hearing on that subject, and I know we'll have some more follow-up on it. Let me ask you about the consolidated audit trail, something that's plagued my existence for the 8 years I've served in Congress. I've already on record not a supporter of the CAT. Has the SEC issued the final rule on the consolidated audit trail to the best of your knowledge?
The rules are in place. We're still working on parts related to filings in front of us on funding and some amendments with regard to data security.
Would it surprise you that some people in the brokerage community weren't aware that the CAT is actually already being collected as of December 31st? And are you aware that that data is already being collected?
We are actually, as a regulatory agency, aware that it's being collected, transaction data is being collected, and we benefit from that.
Are you concerned about the encryption of that data, that it's inadequate?
I think as a government agency, we should always be focused on data security, and data encryption is one of the pieces of data security.
I'd like for you to respond to me about if you would, respond in writing about the encryption of that and the protection of anything that would be considered personally identifiable information. Let me turn to a different subject, which is the Treasury market. We have a time right now where the Fed is shrinking its balance sheet and where there's an unprecedented amount of Treasury issue because of the avalanche in spending by the Biden administration. Is the SEC a member of the Interagency Working Group on the Treasury market?
Yes, we are, sir.
And yet you have this proposal, as I read it, that would say that people who are buyers of Treasuries could somehow be swept up and become dealers. Why are you proposing that someone who might be a dealer, an investor in Treasury suddenly become a dealer?
It's really under a law Congress passed in the 1980s after a lot of problems in the Treasury markets, but it's focused on parties that are facilitating buying and selling treasuries and making markets in those treasuries in the markets to get them registered, whether they be high-frequency traders or others that are active in the markets.
My time's
making
expired.
markets.
We'll have to continue this conversation offline. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.